What's up? What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel, Sports, Life, and Politics TV. And today we're going to be going over this R. Kelly sentencing. Did R. Kelly receive too much time? Was he over sentenced? Look, if you do the crime, you goddamn right you got to do the time. And I don't have no problem with R. Kelly going to jail. But R. Kelly received a death sentence. And most people say, no, he didn't. He only received 30 years. When you're 56 years old and you receive 30 years, that's a death sentence. And look, I understand that black men are not going to receive the same amount of time as a white man might receive for doing the same exact crime in this country. That's not racial, that's factual. Or it's not just racial, it's factual. But R. Kelly, in the midst of this video, I'm going to be able to prove that he wasn't given 30 years because the crimes that he committed was heinous. He was given 30 years because somebody wanted them goddamn masters. Now, in the beginning of this video, I'm going to give you the prediction. In the beginning, usually I wait to the end, but I'm gonna give it to you in the beginning. I understand we stay in a microwave society where everybody wants everything quick, straight to the point. R. Kelly, as he starts to do his time, I guarantee you, whoever's in control of those masters will make him into a sympathetic figure. And they will start to monetize and make money off of those masters. R. Kelly, nobody can deny this. Especially within the race of the Negroes. The man was a musical goddamn genius. And for R. Kelly to receive, or for those people that were surrounding this case, for there to be real and full justice, a lot of them parents need to go to jail too. Because R. Kelly married Aaliyah when she was 15. Might have been 14, but I think it's 15. We've been knowing R. Kelly like young girls for a long time. It's not new. But R. Kelly and those parents should all pay the same penalty. All those people and producers and other artists who were bringing those young people around R. Kelly also need to pay. Those people who knew should also pay. But I'm going to get this clip going. Let's take a look.
On the air with a sentencing for R. Kelly, the disgraced singer and convicted sex trafficker, sentenced to 30 years in prison. Ahead, what we're hearing from the survivors of his decades of abuse. Plus, we're still digesting that explosive testimony from former White House staffer Cassidy Hutchinson. How the committee is responding to efforts by some on the right to poke holes in her story about what former President Trump was doing on the day of the Capitol attack. And the White House laying out its strategy.
Let me skip ahead. I'm sorry, you guys. I didn't know they was going to give you all this.
Years in prison after he was convicted last September of sex trafficking and racketeering. Now, survivors of that abuse.
And let me tell you this. R. Kelly might be able to get this time reduced because that racketeering charge, that's bullshit. Racketeering is like you running a whole criminal enterprise. So he might have a chance with that, but they did give him the death penalty. I mean, 30 years, 56 years old. I think he will be 86 years old. So most people will consider that's pretty much the death penalty. Keep the video going.
Are reacting to the decision outside the courthouse, saying that they are grateful for the sentence. Take a listen.
I never thought that I would be here to see him be held accountable for the atrocious things that he did to children.
There wasn't a day in my life up until this moment that I actually believed that the judicial system will come through for black and brown girls. And now we have justice in our judicial system.
I mean, there's so many Negroes that would say there's never been justice in the judicial system, but What these ladies don't realize is they don't care nothing about them. This whole thing is always about money, money, money. Now, there are some cases where there is justice served properly, but when you're dealing with people of the status of a Michael Jackson, a Prince, or R. Kelly, believe you me, it becomes extremely financial. And if any of these people is from that surviving R. Kelly, that bullshit, he might have a chance in an appeal, with an appeal. Now, because there's so much money on the line with R. Kelly, I would doubt he would win an appeal, but he has a chance because Bill Cosby won his appeal because a lot of them women were lying. But I'm going to keep the video going.
A lot of the victims were minors. R. Kelly's trial lasted 6 weeks. Dozens of witnesses testifying about how he had been an abusive, toxic figure who exploited them. The jury ended up finding him guilty on all 9 counts. Kelly had been dodging accusations for decades, and this trial was seen as a key moment for the Me Too movement. You'll remember now.
Now, you see, they said that's a key moment for the Me Too movement. All of a sudden, with all of these white men, with all this pedophilia and rape in Hollywood, all of a sudden, a black man ends up being the face of the pivotal key moment of the Me Too movement. That's bullshit. Because what R. Kelly did was wrong. He deserves his time. I don't want to let R. Kelly off the hook, but the whole music industry and entertainment industry is full of monsters. It's full of monsters. What R. Kelly did was terrible, but compared to what some of the stuff I'm going to go over in this video, is nowhere near some of the stuff that some of these Hollywood producers and directors and the people over some of these studios. I got a few little things I'm gonna read to you guys in a second, but I'm gonna keep the video going. I'm gonna try to keep this probably about 15 minutes. Sometimes you try to keep this video short, but it ended up going over because you really want to go over a lot of the topics in the context of what's going on. You really want to dig into the context.
2019, the docuseries Surviving R. Kelly really intensified calls for Kelly to face legal consequences, and it gave a voice to accusers who said their stories had been ignored because they were black women. Ron Allen joins me now from outside the courthouse in New York. Ron, prosecute.
And you know that that's bullshit because you have Harvey Weinstein and a lot of white women stuff was ignored. But I will say this. I will never defend Harvey Weinstein, but a lot of those people knew in Hollywood you have to do sexual favors and sexual acts to get on. It's been like that in Hollywood for the longest. And this whole thing is, I had to do it. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Believe me, some of these ladies come to Hollywood, not all. Some of these ladies come to Hollywood knowing what they have to do to get on. And then on the back end, after they done it and feel terrible about it, then they play the victim card. Like I said, not all. Some women are taken advantage of. Some might be drugged, and I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the ones that we all know that come into Hollywood knowing the whole game and the whole get down and then play dumb on the back end.
Who wanted at least 25 years for Kelly, they got more than that. Give us the details of why they went down that way and talk to us about the considerations that went into all of this.
They got essentially a life sentence, which is what the prosecutors want and what the judge said Kelly deserved because of the seriousness.
A death sentence.
Because she thought that the sentence needed to be a deterrent because he showed no remorse. He accepted no responsibility for what he did. The judge was particularly...
And let's get this straight. I don't mean to keep cutting this video off, but let's get this straight. A lot of those women knew exactly what they were going into. Once again, I won't say all. Because some of those girls were extremely young, 14, 15 years old. Not talking about them. But let's be honest, y'all. That's why I'm glad my videos is not monetized, because I can be completely honest. When you 17, you pretty much know what you're doing. Now, within the law, you're not supposed to do that. I do understand that. I'm not making no excuses. But when I was 17, I had sex with women who was grown. None of y'all gave a damn. None of y'all give a damn right now. And never would, never will, and never would. And believe me, at 17, I pretty much knew what I was doing. I knew what I was getting myself into. Was I still young in the mind, a little naive? Absolutely. But at 17, you kind of know. Hey, this is a grown man. And a lot of them parents was dropping them kids off to R. Kelly. True or false now?
Stern in handing down her sentence, she said that Kelly had shown an indifference to human suffering, that he'd left a trail of broken lives in his wake. She said to him that what had happened was serial rape, sexual abuse over a long period of time. So very strong language from the judge in handing down that 30-year sentence, essentially meaning that Kelly will spend the rest of his life in prison.
Yeah, this has been a long time coming for the survivors of this abuse. Some of them spoke before the judge gave the sentence. We heard some of what they said after the fact, but what did they say before he gave the sentence?
There were some very emotional impact statements, as is the case in many sentencings in these high-profile cases. Half a dozen women and one father of one victim spoke to the court and basically said that Kelly had destroyed their lives. In very graphic terms, there are a couple of quotes that we can show you. One, a woman named, identified only as J. Doe, said, "I once lost hope in our justice system, but you restore my faith. A constant battle, and no longer do I have to live in silence." So many of the victims said that they had for so long been living in silence because they'd been shamed. They felt that they were the cause of all this. They blamed themselves, and so they kept and suffered in silence. Another said,
now, some of these women, too, that I seen in surviving R. Kelly was grown. Now, look. These grown women, we know that in the entertainment industry, there's a lot of groupies. Once again, I'm not saying every single one of them was, but you would have to admit, some of these women were groupies. And they volunteered to go into these situations. And then when R. Kelly got done with them and he didn't give them no money and there was no more funding of the lifestyle, then that's when a lot of this stuff comes out. Like I'm saying, I'm not making an excuse for R. Kelly because we know going back to Aaliyah, R. Kelly liked young girls. But there were adult girls who were over 18 who volunteered to go into these situations. And as soon as R. Kelly got done with them, while it was happening, none of these girls, especially the ones over 18, none of them was coming out and saying R. Kelly was this, that, and the third. They waited to after the fact.
"You are an abuser, a shameless, disgusting individual. I hope you go to jail for the rest of your life." And a third said, "I can see you're not sorry. I can see you're not sorry for what you did." He was talking while the victims were speaking. And he says, "I hope you get some help and I hope you get forgiveness from God." So, very emotional scene in the courtroom. Women were here, accusers, victims were here to try and finally get justice. Again, this has been going on for many years, for at least a couple of decades. These allegations date back to the early 1990s. And today, with his sentencing, these women feel that they finally have gotten a measure of justice.
Yeah, he was really a pop star, an R&B star on top of the world. Now, his lawyers were hoping for 10 years or less. So now what are they saying about going forward here? Appeal?
Yeah, of course. They're saying that he's going to appeal. The legal part of it that they are taking exception with is the racketeering conviction. The jury essentially found him guilty, Kelly guilty, of running a criminal enterprise that was all about not just his wealth and fame as a musician, but also about recruiting and grooming and sexually abusing and exploiting young women and girls. They're going to appeal that part of it, but he also has legal cases pending in Illinois and in Minnesota that are also sex-related cases, sex charge-related cases. So, bottom line, appeals, other cases. I think we've heard the last of R. Kelly. He's going to be in prison, I guess you could say, for the rest of his natural life. And again, prosecutors have been going after him for many years. So today there's a feeling of victory, but of course there's a lot that was left in his wake.
As you can see, he said he's going to spend the rest of his natural life in jail, which is a death sentence. And even look, these people on TV sometimes they preview to a certain information on cases. They can't come out until, like, this black dude right here. You might think on the surface he's all for all these victims, but behind the scenes he knows things and sees body language, or he gets information and certain things about court cases. He would never come on TV and say it, but he understands when people are exaggerating or flat out lying. But he can't say that because you have to believe all women. And not all women are truthful, just like all men aren't truthful. Is R. Kelly a monster? I would assume so. Does R. Kelly deserve time? Absolutely. But I just want to go over this right quick with you guys before this video goes off. How people have selective outrage. Things that they say they care about, but they really don't care about. Let me see. Give me 1 second. Okay, you had a Hollywood pedophilia of Law and Order director gets a slap on the wrist for kiddie porn. Let me see see if I can click on the video. Give me 1 second. They say the son of The Good Wife star Jane Alexander was busted with child pornography and is strolling out of jail. Jace Alexander was given a sentence of 10 years on probation after cops caught him with a computer that had 2 clips of underage girls performing sexual acts. One of the twisted videos featured a 6-year-old girl. In addition to possession of the viral video, cops also caught Jace Alexander sharing one of the tapes with his fellow perverts on an internet hosting site. The disgraced television director pleads guilty to both charges January 2016. Alexander was facing possibility of 7-year sentence on the charge of promoting sexual performance by a child and possession of obscene performance by a child. And yet the Hollywood insider who directed 32 episodes of Law and Order helmed his show is a free man today. The father of 11-year-old twins is the son of an Emmy Award winning actor Jane, and his stepfather performed on Law and Order. Excuse me. The pervert also has powerful Hollywood connections. For the time of his as vice president and directors of the Guild of America, the latest shameful display of Hollywood pedophilia in a humiliating year for the Showbiz Inquirer included actor Elijah Wood having to backpedal after speaking out about the Hollywood producer exploiting child actors for sexual purposes, followed by CBS star having to make the same charges against the powerful Hollywood director. So there's people in Hollywood who try to speak out, but these people are so powerful, not just within Hollywood, but within the court system, the judicial system. They say at least Jurassic Park actor Cameron Theor ran the school where Helen Hunt, Cameron Diaz, Courtney Cox, Madonna studied sent to the summer. For 6 years, on April 27th, for assaulting an underage would-be actress, and will be shocking recently discovered secret kiddie porn stash. Hollywood is still covering up for plenty creeps. Let me go to this next one, you guys. Now, he basically got a slap on the wrist. Let's see if I gotta go out. Going to the next one. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry, y'all. Just get this. Okay. It's a director. The pedophile director embraced by Hollywood. Filmmaker Salvo was convicted for raping a 12-year-old boy, but his new film, Jeepers Creepers 3, is now playing in theaters. Why has Hollywood given this monster a pass? Last week, Jeepers Creepers 3 and the third entry of the horror flick franchise opened in theaters for one night only. The Fathom event premieres unleashed the Creepers 635 theaters, grossing more than $1.7 million. The film was so successful that one night only event had been expanded to October 4th. Encore showings across the country, with Jeepers Creepers 3 will forever be tainted by director Victor Salva's deeply disturbing criminal past. In 1986, Salva's 35-minute short film, Something in the Basement, some impressed legendary filmmaker Francis Ford Coppola that he came on as a producer as Salva's first full-length feature, Clown House. You gotta watch these people who love these clowns, because that goes back to what was the man's name? John Wayne Gacy. Featured Clown House. Salva, then 28, cast the 12-year-old Nathan Winters, who had also been featured in Something in the Basement. In Clown House, the movie centered around young brothers whose suburban existence transformed into a walking nightmare where their house is occupied by a psychopath dressed as a clown. During the film of the sixth grader's mother's, Rebecca Winters, began to suspect that her son is being terrorized both on and off the set. Where was she at? She should have been on set with her child, or at least the father. Victor said, "I couldn't go to the seat." She told the Los Angeles Times, "I couldn't go to the set." See, they keep these parents off the set, but if you're a parent, how the fuck they gonna keep you off the set? Fuck that. He said, "Nathan couldn't work if I was there. I just had these feelings. I confronted Nathan and he admitted it to me. He said, I have a secret and I can't tell anyone." Police raided the director and former child care workers' home, where they found child pornography, including homemade pornography, tape that showed Salva engaged in oral sex with pre-adolescent star. "He spent the better part of a year grooming me and my parents," Nathan Winters recalled the interview earlier this year, "developing the trust. He was just calculated." In April 1988, Salva pleaded guilty to 5 felony counts: lewd conduct, oral compilation, and the person under 14. 3 counts of procuring child pornography. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison. And I'm going to ask you guys this on this video. Was R. Kelly over sentenced? You had this man having sex with a small child, underage. So you know, if he did it to one, he did it to others. They didn't even chase down, and some people just be too embarrassed to come forward. But there's no doubt about that. This man was having sex with young boys. He was only sentenced to 3 years and was released in 1989. He served only 15 months. He didn't even do the full fucking 3 years. The Winter family sued Coppola Commercial Pictures for $5 million. Winter said that they eventually settled out of court barely over $100,000. So they got to fuck their son. They basically sacrificed their son. That's why I say these parents, they just as culpable. Fuck that. I ain't just blaming them. The parents, how the fuck you leave your child with a monster? You can feel it, the vibe. Yeah, you can feel that. It say Salva's post-conviction is defined by a push-pull between Hollywood and the sense articulated by journalists, boycotting consumers, and the Winter family that the directed crime should not be forgiven or forgotten. 100% they shouldn't be forgiven or forgotten. But let me go. I'm going to go to one more, and then I'm going to end this video. Because there was a white man. He was from Australia. And he was having sex with children. I just want to make sure I get his name. Let me see. 1 second. I just want to make sure I get the man's name. Tommy John. oh man, I don't know what's that on here, but it was a white man in Australia. He was having sex, you guys, with 1-month-old babies. He was having sex with boys and girls under the age of 10 and 12. Under the age of 10, he was having sex with these people. I'm sorry I couldn't pull it up. I don't know. I had it saved, but I don't know where it's at. But he was having sex with underage people. He only got 15 years. If you don't believe me, Google Australian having sex with underage kids. And the man only got 15 years. He ended up not doing no time. He ended up paying probation and a fine. These people are letting people off. R. Kelly is doing all this time. Why? Because they want his masters. And I guarantee you this is my bold prediction. While R. Kelly is in jail, I said it in the beginning, while R. Kelly is in jail, somebody major will come out and play R. Kelly as a sympathetic figure, and he got a raw deal, and they'll get people to start back listening to his music, and somebody will most definitely monetize that and start making money off those masters, whoever take control of that. You know what they always say? Follow the money. Follow the money. But I just want to, touch on this R. Kelly case. I'm not saying R. Kelly is some innocent victim. He is the Pied Piper, aka Pan. But R. Kelly should have been. There's no way he should be doing 30 goddamn years. That's ridiculous. But I appreciate y'all tuning in, man. I appreciate all the support, man. Leave a comment. Tell me where I'm right, where I'm wrong at. Man, hit that like. Hit that subscribe. I just took your ass on one hell of a Pied Piper ride. Peace.